Welcome to Blunder Mifflin,
This episode of the Helping Healing Humor
Sons of Blunder.
podcast is brought to you in partnership with ministryleague.com. We would love for more people to discover this show, so please rate and review us on iTunes or your podcast provider. Feel free to share on your social media and subscribe at benandtravis.com for the free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living.
Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor podcast with Ben and Travis. Coming at you still from Cleveland, Tennessee. We've got a couple of these we're knocking out. We get to hang out together every so often. And so what do? We bring you guys content that, hopefully is fun. And this is one of those, Sons of Blunder edition. I'm Travis Creasy, my pal Ben Hayes. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing great. It's been a good weekend hanging out with you, and who knows when this is going to broadcast and go out there, but we hope that it's enjoyable for you. We've just been sitting here reminiscing, thinking about some crazy times that we have had, not just together, but, just in general when it comes to some cool stuff that we like to do.
Yeah, and we've both been able to travel outside of the friendly confines of the United States of America,
and inside,
confines all in the effort of spreading the kingdom of God. And things happen when you do those things, and that's part of the adventure. That's part of the fun. That's part of the draw. And on this episode and maybe a few others, we're going to share some of the interesting things that happen.
Yeah, I always told the teenagers they would, we get on these road trips when they go. Some of the stuff we've been on, I've gone by myself to meet missionaries. Sometimes we've traveled with them, but a lot of times these are van rides with the kids, and something goes wrong every trip. It doesn't matter. There's always going to be something.
You got kids involved.
Yeah,
kids who are also human beings, and
right.
You're a human being, and some of these are by our own folly. And some we were kind of thrust into the situation.
Because we're sons of blunder.
Yes.
We mess up quite often. And so, a lot of, I tell the kids, I remember when they would all start kind of complaining or talking about it and like, why does something always happen? I was like, it's what makes it memorable. I mean,
let's never forget this.
Let's just soak it in. So we have had some interesting experiences. And so we're going to bring those to you guys, maybe in a couple of different episodes. We're probably not going to cover all of it. And we could probably do about 30 episodes and talk about some of the things that we're going to talk about. But, when I think about the missionaries, even in the Bible, there were things they ran into. We are not in any way comparing ourselves to the missionaries of the Bible, because one, they were much more hardcore than we are. And number two, they went through a whole lot worse things than we did. But even in reading the scripture and in listening to other youth ministers and other missionaries talk, things go wrong.
It's a fun connection, in some ways, fun. But it is a nice connection. They went through things. We're going to go through things. And it just doesn't always go the way that you would prefer it go.
Yeah. So we're going to start off talking about our top stories about food on those trips. And we really hate that Will is not with us. He's not able to be here. Weren't sure about our internet connection, whether we would be able to make that work. So some point we're going to have to just ask Will, what are some of these things for him? But we're going to start off with food. So tell me, Travis, what do you think some of the most interesting events that have happened revolving around food in
just kind of a mild thing. Typically you go somewhere, you want to try something. We're in Cleveland, Tennessee, and these little cookies that they did. I think they said thumbnail. I don't know.
Yeah,
they're real small cookies.
Village cookie, thumbnail cookies. They're
amazing.
They're
you
wonderful. Order them from Cleveland, Tennessee.
I went to Wisconsin on spring break during my time at Freed Hardeman, and I ate cheese curds, warm, slippery cheese. That probably wasn't the most tasty way of explaining that. Cheese on apple pie.
Was it moist?
It was moist.
Just
sorry
for those people out there that somebody
cheese
just
on apple pie.
Stop on the recording.
Yes, cheese on apple pie in Wisconsin. But those are all kind of mild things in comparison to what we're going to start off with, and I think we're going to go I was in India, and I may have wished for death at some point. I was that sick. I was hurting,
And I wasn't with you. I was on a different trip.
different trip. But I'd had enough curry to make me hurt to the point that I remember, and I was jet lagged, right? Never, and was hurting, and I just remember thinking, I may not survive this, right? And maybe the pain was so great, I was kind of like, Lord, if this is the time, and you're going to call me home, could we make it quick?
I like curry.
Yeah.
And somewhere
awful.
Mike Brooks is laughing at you because he loves curry too.
No, I'm out. Can't smell it in the mall. Like somebody's fixing their lunch and they are making curry. In the school, in the teacher's lounge, if somebody's warming up some leftover and it's curry smells anything like it, I'm done. Like, I've got to go eat somewhere else.
Well, mine didn't have to do with curry, but it had to do with Thai rice. We went to this restaurant owned by a member of the church in the Philippines, in Cebu, Philippines. And so we go in there, and this guy is served, I can't remember the technical name, but it's all in little dishes, and there's a technical name for the way they served it. But anyway, they started bringing out Thai rice, and it was the best thing I'd had. And of course, I love spicy stuff. I love rice. I love just anything new like that. And so I ate and ate and ate. And it was the night before we were leaving to get on the plane to come back home. And I wished for death, I think, a couple of times in the night. And I mean, I had to get up and wander around the house and finally found they didn't have like ice and stuff like that, but they did have a freezer. And I got something frozen out of their freezer, don't know what it was, and had it on my stomach laying in bed because I could not get relief either way. That rice had swelled up in the old tummy, and I was done for. But by the time I got on the plane, it was all good. They wanted me to eat balut on the way out. Now, balut in the Philippines it's like an ostrich egg, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's an ostrich egg, some sort of egg. It doesn't even
matter.
Large
it doesn't matter what kind of egg it is.
But it's a almost completely grown, like, ostrich inside of it, or, developed egg. But then it's like hard boiled, so it's kind of like eating the bones in. You okay?
Okay, yeah. I'm just. It's not sickness. It's not sickness. That's perfect timing.
I'm a sympathetic puker. I can't do this.
That's perfect timing. But no, I had something stuck in my throat. I'm not going to be sick. I'm all right.
So it's this ostrich or goose or something. I don't know what it is. And it's almost fully developed, but the way they cook it, it becomes almost like the bones in like salmon patties, or, that it comes in the canned fish.
There are bones in those?
Well, you take them out generally when you make them.
Gotcha.
But the bones are in there. The way they're pressure cooked, they're soft. So you can eat this whole egg, including the little creature.
They tried to pull that one on me too, and I wasn't having it.
I said, look, not a balut day. I'm not going to do it. So that's the one thing I haven't tried. I mean, I probably would have tried it on any other given day.
I was not going to try it.
But
I was out.
But that was rough. So anyway, the gut cramps in Thai. Well, we were in the Philippines, but it was Thai rice, and in India, gut cramps aren't good. But they happen sometimes. We've gone to Mexico before, and some of our kids on those Mexico trips, I can name a few if you wanted me to, but have got Montezuma's revenge. When you go to Mexico, don't drink the water. If you don't know this, if you're traveling outside the U.S., if you're a U.S. resident, you're probably not used to the things that are in the water in other places, so you have to be careful. So even brushing your teeth.
Yeah, that can...
in the shower, you got to be careful not running in your mouth.
That cannot
so
end
be
well
real careful
sometimes. And I think the other thing that maybe we both have been, I don't want to say the word victim of, you may have enjoyed it, but fish head soup.
I don't think I have been a victim of that, but I'd probably eat it.
I'm in the Philippines, getting ready to leave. Actually, I think we were about to leave, and so they're hitting us up with this bowl, hitting up with soup. It's got vegetables in it. And I'm just tearing it up, because we'd come from India where it was chicken curry and everything was spicy, and it was just killing my gut. And we went to the Philippines, and they had like hamburgers and fried chicken, and man, that was like awesome. And then this soup, well, then they're like, "You're our guest. We saved you the best part." And so they like kind of moved with the spoon, moved the vegetables back.
You're so lucky.
And their fish heads floating around in the bottom of it, and they're like, these are yours. You can have them, you know. And the eyeballs are in and everything. And I passed. I was like, I'm
pretty sure
you know what? I love
the Bible
you guys.
says not to do that. You should have eaten without asking questions.
I know. Well, I didn't ask
I'm
questions.
probably taking that way out of context.
I didn't ask questions. They gave me the answers that I did not ask questions for. I'd have been happy as a lark and not knowing what
it was.
You know, so.
Well, I didn't have that experience, but in the Philippines, I did have where I went in to eat in someone's house, and they had cooked the fish like in aluminum foil or something like that, and apparently they'd had it in the ground. So when they pulled it up, there was like all sorts of insects coming off of it. But once they opened everything,
Gotcha.
I think the fish was okay.
Yeah.
And we ate it. It was good. But you know, it's just different. You go to those places, and here's the thing: like a lot of missionaries get over in places, and they don't want to eat. You know, they are not the missionaries, but people who travel over, who maybe are going with the missionaries for the first time,
me, you know.
and they don't want to eat the stuff that's there. And so, you know, I think it's important. I think it is, and I try to encourage our kids when we go places to at least try what they're putting before you. You know, because they're working really hard. That's what they eat. They think, oh wow, I'm doing something, you know, special for these people. And so, I mean, when we told them to do that,
You want to do it as much
too.
as you can. You want to get down as much as you can.
Yeah.
I also in the Philippines saw a guy, you know, stick the knife in his mouth and like shimmy up a coconut and bring down a coconut, fresh coconut. That was amazing. Plus, seeing a dude climb that, like, I think Lonnie Jones might have been impressed.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I saw one too. Again, we were there at different times, but we saw that and it was pretty phenomenal. But, you know, when you go over to places like that, sometimes you just want a taste of home, right?
Oh, yes.
So, so some people, like when I went to Bangladesh and I'm planning to go back in the fall, trying to talk Travis into going with us. But when I went to Bangladesh about 10 years ago, they really liked that I came because I liked to eat what they ate. Like I liked the curry, I liked the spices, I liked the rice, and so
you're not doing a great job of recruiting me right now.
Yeah, and so I would eat all those things, but you know our missionary had a kind of a house apartment there on the college campus, and so we would sometimes eat up there, and it was nice when Brenda would cook us something that was a little bit more from home. Some missionaries decide to just eat the peanut butter and crackers or the sandwiches that are back there, and I think you have some interesting stories about peanut butter.
I don't know. Maybe Joey and Jeremy Barrier are listening to this, and maybe they can deny, and I'll roll with that because you're supposed to have faith in your brothers.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure they loaded me up with the things that they didn't want to get caught with or didn't want at least taken away from them. And so I have this big thing of peanut butter, and I think it's India. You can't take peanut butter into India. It's one of those countries we visited. India, Singapore, Malaysia,
should be a crime.
The Philippines, and I kept getting peanut butter taken away from me.
Love peanut butter.
And that's sad.
But there's a lot of people, that's what you do. You take, and I mean, I know when we went to Mexico, sometimes I would take a bunch of snacks just in case I didn't feel comfortable, you know, because again, you have to kind of watch what you eat. Not because their food's bad, but because our systems don't like it.
Yeah,
sometimes.
we have very sissy systems.
Yeah, so you know we're used to, you know, purified water, and theirs isn't as purified as ours, and they may have the same issue if they came here. So you know, there's you just have to be careful with that sort of thing. And so, but then sometimes you just want to taste a home. So Wes Howell and I went years ago to Scotland. I think this was like in 2000 because we went through New York before the Twin Towers fell, and so we spent some time in New York, spent some time in Amsterdam. I might talk about that in a later time. And then we also went to we went into Scotland, and while we were in Scotland, we got tired of hot tea because that's all that they had to drink. And well, they had some other things like Iron Brew, which was pretty phenomenal. But every day they would have tea time, and so they would have hot tea and cookies. And biscuits, I think that's what they call them. But we would enjoy the time with them, but we were good Southern Alabama boys. And so we needed our sweet tea. So one day we asked them, where's the tea at? And where's the sugar at? And they're going, what are you doing? Like they're looking at us all funny. And we go in the back and make sweet tea. and we indulge ourselves in sweet tea as they see us with cold, see us with ice in our tea and sitting there drinking it sweet, and they think we're crazy. But
In Scotland, I can get
taste
on the
of home.
hot tea, because it's kind of cooler over there.
Now I like it,
But in India, I had hot tea, and that really didn't have the same effect.
that's where tea comes from.
I know, but it was hot, and everything's hot.
Oh yeah,
in India.
Trying to drink hot stuff while you're in a hot
The whole
country.
place is like humid, and I'm Alabama. I don't know about humidity, man, but it's something about like 9 o'clock at night. It's supposed to cool down just a little bit. So, but anyway.
So we've gone, in the United States, we've gone a couple of places in like Florida and Louisiana. And so, somebody asked today or a couple of days ago, asked me, they said, what is there to do in New Orleans? Like, why would I want to go vacation there? And I said, food. Like, what else do you care about? I want to go for food. Now, there's some ghost tours, and there's some, plantation tours, and there's some alligator tours. Those are fun. Swamp tours, but
There's a monstrous World War II museum down there that
is
you can go
right.
and
I
spend
didn't
about
get to
6
do that.
hours in there.
I wanted to do that, but I didn't get to do that. But yeah, there's some great things in New Orleans, but you go for the food.
Yeah.
But if you go for the food, it's the same thing as going in some of these other countries. Is sometimes
Don't ask questions.
they are going to throw some spices at you, and they're going to throw some other things. We had some. I remember the only time I've ever eaten whole crab. Like you guys that listening probably have had crab legs a lot, but we ate whole crabs, where you actually broke the body open and picked the meat from around the insides.
Yeah.
So we did that. It was also fun because you could open it next to somebody, like next to Travis, and if you got it just right as it popped open, it could splatter them. And so we did that a few times to each other too.
I've eaten alligator down there.
Oh, yeah,
on
man.
the bayou, and a snake, and then of course you've got well, I thought I knew, but now I can't remember.
There was a place called in Clewiston and LaBelle, Dixie was in the name, but it had fried alligator, and we would always go get alligator bites. Cool story
Nice,
is there's
chewy.
a picture hanging in that, if it's still there. I haven't been down there in several years, but at one time there was a picture of Elvis hanging in that store that I drew, and the youth group signed because everything in that store was Elvis. So every time we go in and eat there, we'd see all these Elvis pictures everywhere. So I drew a picture of Elvis, and our kids all signed it. And for the next 2 or 3 years that we went back, it was hanging behind the register. So if you ever find yourself in, I can't remember if it's called Dixie Fried Chicken or something like that, in Clewiston, Florida, if you're ever there, look for the hand-drawn Elvis that I drew, and it's in there. So I don't know if that matters to anything. I don't know if anybody really even cares about that. I just thought I would throw that little...
Well, return to sender. You might can grab it and bring it back.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen that thing in a while, so you never know. But anyway, so those are a few of our more interesting or...
food stories.
Yeah.
And, you may be sitting there going, man, these guys, they need to get with it, especially me. I'm definitely a bland food eater. Did the best I could, but there's just some things, man, you put the brakes on.
Just pump the brakes. There is an interesting, and some places have interesting laws like peanut butter, you were talking about, but also we went to Singapore, and, you can't chew bubble gum in Singapore.
Yeah.
So it's like a federal offense, or I don't know what it would be considered, but at least in the time that we went there, you couldn't have bubble gum because it would dirty up the streets. And Singapore was a really pretty, like of all the places you go, that's one of the most beautiful cities and taken care of cities. So it's like, yep, no bubble gum for you.
There you go.
So, just be aware of the local laws, wherever it is.
That's always
that you're
important. I
traveling.
remember, traveling, flying in, and a little sweet stewardess voice comes over. Ding! Warning, in Singapore, trafficking drugs carries a capital offense punishable by death.
Nice.
It's like, well, do I need to get rid of my ibuprofen? You start thinking about things. But anyways, this has been a fun trip down memory lane. Thought you'd like to hear some of our great food stories and then our not so great food stories. But either way, appreciate you guys coming along for the ride.
See ya.
You've been Blunderstruck. Thanks for joining Ben, Travis, and Will on the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Make sure to go to benandtravis.com for more content and to download the free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living.